The Philadelphia 76ers suffer another loss on the day we find out where KJ Martin is going. We're going to break it down right here on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On 76ers. We're your host, Keith Pompey, 76ers beat writer. I'm Kayla Santiago, sideline reporter for the Delaware Blue Coats, the NBA G League affiliate of the Philadelphia 76ers. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, or wherever you're listening to the podcast. You can also find us on our Locked On Daily newsletter. That's on lockedondaily.com. Trust me, you're going to want to go check that out, especially with these next few games looming for the Philadelphia 76ers. What's going to happen with Paul George, Joel Embiid, the trade deadline, everything in between. So make sure you go check that out today. And Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Make sure you download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. So the 76ers drop onto the Heat 108-101. Keith, the 76ers no longer with KJ Martin either. They're able to get that salary out of there. What are your thoughts on this trade? I know KJ Martin was a piece that we both talked about that we liked, but do you think that this was necessary for the Philadelphia 76ers to get more room?
Yeah, before we do that, let's break down the trade. So here's the deal with the trade. KJ, KJ Martin, they traded KJ Martin and 2 future first round picks, basically just for a salary cap dump.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing is with the trade is one of those things. The reason why it's not completed yet is because the Detroit Pistons are trying to get another team involved so they can basically ship KJ to another team. And the thing is, you talk about if it was necessary. I mean, it depends on what you want, right?
Right.
To me, this is a salary dump. This is a move the 76ers are making so they can get underneath the luxury tax threshold, right? So they traded KJ, and they traded K-Lib the day before just so they can get under it. Now, a lot of people are looking at it saying, what's going on? What's going on? How do you trade a guy and don't get anything back? Well, they were able to do that because Detroit was $14 million underneath the salary cap. So they're basically giving them 2 picks to get that. Now, the problem is, does this upgrade your team? It doesn't. You're not bringing anybody back to upgrade your team. But the one thing that I will say is Yabusele is playing well, right? Justin Edwards are playing well. KJ Martin hasn't played since December the 23rd. And Caleb Martin has been injured as well. So the Sixers are looking at it like we're going to get underneath the salary cap. These 2 guys have not been in the rotation for a minute, and we're just going to move on with that. But I could see where fans are upset.
I don't know if the word I would use would be upset. I think it's more confusion for me, kind of what you've alluded to there. I understand the Kayla Martin move, and you get somebody back in Grimes for that, and you look forward to seeing him in the 76ers uniform. KJ Martin, I get that he's been injured, and injuries have been a big problem with the Philadelphia 76ers this year, but you still need that backup forward behind Gershon Yabusele, especially when guys start to get healthy, when Joel Embiid is out there healthy, and if you're playing Gershon at the starting 4 position. So I don't love the move. There's still time left to see if the 76ers do everything or anything else. Kayla Martin, I understood. KJ Martin, don't love it. I get what they wanted to do to have that salary jump, but at the same time, I don't love it. I think the 76ers maybe want somebody in that backup power 4 position so that they could go on and try to win some games going forward when everybody's healthy. You gave the fans' perspective, you gave the overall viewpoint of it. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think the 76ers are going to benefit from this? Do you think that we still need more time to tell with what can happen and really just the next few hours here as the trade deadline is looming at 3 p.m.? What are your thoughts overall on how this went down?
You know what? I don't think it's really going to matter. Like, I don't. Like, I think the fans are going to be upset just because they're like, yo. And the reason why I said the fans were upset is because when you think about it, when they got him, initially they said, we're getting this guy. Everyone knew that they were going to trade him at the trade deadline. I'm talking about back in July. But
Hmm.
you were under the assumption you were going to trade him to bring in a player. I think that, and I think the reason why it doesn't really matter is because in the postseason, you reduce your rotation, right? You're only going to play probably 8 guys. That's it.
That's a good
Eight,
point. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So then you look at it and you say to yourself, okay, Yabu is going to be the starting power forward. Well, who's
Mhm.
the backup power forward? Well, you're going to have different lineups, and I think that maybe Justin Edwards can he's taller than KJ. They're about the same type of defender, right? Length getting in people's way, but he's a better shooter than KJ, a better offensive player. So you look at him and you say to yourself, well, maybe he can steal some minutes for him. You know what I mean? So I feel like the fact that Caleb and KJ are gone. They're huge pieces to go. But the fact that Yabu and Justin Edwards are playing well. And then here's another person we got to talk about, Ricky Council.
Yeah.
When Ricky Council came in, he provided a lot of energy, and he has been playing well as of late. So, I look at Ricky and I say to myself, well, he and KJ are the same type of players, but Ricky is a little bit taller than him. So, what I mean? I don't feel like, and I hate to say it, and because I like KJ and he was the starting four, but I don't feel like he's going to be as missed as people think he will.
And it's interesting too. You bring up the playoff picture. I think the thing I shouldn't even say worry about, but that I look at going forward for this team is the 76ers. They got to get into that play in spot, which I do think that they will. But then you got to play in the play in tournament. Then you got to get into the playoffs, which I do think that will happen. But you're right in the sense that when you look at it, your bench isn't going that deep in the playoffs. Maybe Ricky Council comes in, and if it was in the playoffs too, KJ Martin might come in for a few minutes, right? And then that's all he's going to
He
see
might not
in the
even
playoffs.
play. He
That's
might
true,
not
right?
even
Ricky
play.
Council and
I mean,
Justin Edwards were getting minutes above
so
him.
like here's the thing. Let's look at this right now. Let's say so.
Yeah,
We got 8 players, right? You
right.
got 8 players. So you got the 5 starters. You got
Hmm.
Yabu. You have Embiid. We have Yabu, Embiid, Maxey, who's probably going to play 40 something minutes,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Paul George and Kelly
Kelly Oubre.
Oubre.
Hmm.
Well, number 7 is going to have to be Drummond,
I
right?
would think. Yep.
So that's number 6. I'm sorry, number 6 is Drummond. So then number 7, you ask yourself, well, maybe it's going to be Kyle Lowry because of the point guard presence. And then we're talking Eric Gordon, right? Maybe. And then Justin Edwards, like maybe. So
Right.
you understand what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
kind of like they were looking at this, and a lot of people I think don't look at it this way, but they're looking at it to say who is going to be in this rotation. And guys like Paul George, Joel Embiid, hopefully, definitely Maxey and Kelly Oubre are all going to play at least 38 to 48 minutes a game. And like Oubre might be on the bottom end with the 38, but you want Paul George, you want Embiid, and you want Maxey to play at least 40 something minutes if Embiid could play that many.
Right. And you also see Grimes coming into Ricky Council getting maybe a few minutes in there as well. So, in terms of playoff depth, that's what the 76ers are looking at. And once again, with the salary dump, I want to ask you this before we are going to get to the Heat game, people. Don't worry. We'll talk about Paul George and Tyrese Maxey in that game. The trade deadline is at 3 p.m. today. Do you see the 76ers making any other moves? Because right now, I really don't see them making any other moves at this moment. Do you see anywhere where they can fit in? You're still looking at that backup point guard position as well. Do they go out and get that? Are they comfortable with what they have? What do you see the 76ers doing before the clock ticks at 3 p.m. here today?
I mean, if you can go out and get one, and but
Yeah.
also make it to a point where it's going to be, less value or whatever, or you don't have to pay a lot. I say right now, the fact that they went under the salary cap, I think that they may be better suited. Not the salary tax, luxury tax. I think they could be better suited getting a point guard in the buyout market. Honestly, if you need someone, get that person in the buyout market. Basically, you're gonna, you know, that salary is gonna be a fraction of what you probably would have to take um, in the trade. So I
Yeah.
think that right now, I think that the 76ers may be better suited in the buyout market. And I think that's probably what they're going to do.
Yeah, you can tell already they're trying to save some money. You saw that salary dump. So I would have to agree with you on that one. I don't expect them to make any other big trades or blockbuster or anything like that. There's been some crazy trades even now while we're filming this as well. But I do think the 76ers are done from that standpoint at
They got
for
rid
good.
of Dalton Connect.
I know that was
Woo!
crazy. Putting on for the podcast, I can't
Goodness.
believe it. I know a 7'2" center is what the Lakers want, but we were talking about we wanted Dalton Connect on the Philadelphia 76ers at one point before we saw what Jared McCain could do this year. So listen, that wouldn't be me. I think Dalton Connect is a really good future player, but hey, the Lakers maybe trying to get some games with that 7'2" center and surprise some people in the West. I don't know. I don't think there's enough time for them to win it all or get it all together this season, but who knows? I think Dalton Connect should stay with the team. The future. That's what I'm looking at. Who knows? Anyway, for the Philadelphia 76ers, once again, we'll see what they do before the 3 p.m. trade deadline. But when we come back, we're going to talk about the game at hand. They fall 108-101 against the Miami Heat, and we will touch on that in just a moment. But first, we do have to tell you about Prize Picks. Basketball season is heating up, and as we know, the trade deadline is heating up as well. So I know everybody's getting excited, scrolling consistently, and making sure that you're on Locked On 76ers and the Locked On Podcast Network for all the latest updates. But there's also no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports with over 10 million members and billions in award winnings. Prize Picks makes it easy and fun to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Here's how it works. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Prize Picks even has a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes only needs to throw 1 yard to win. Come on, people. You know he's going to do that in the big game. Pair that with one more correct pick, and you are cashing out. This week, I'm looking at the board and selecting more for Jason Tatum on points, more for Luka Doncic on assists. Yes, even with the Los Angeles Lakers, I still think that he can do that. The best part, Prize Picks keeps it simple, and you can set your lineup in less than 60 seconds as well. And their fast, secure withdrawals mean you get paid quickly when you win. Plus, their Taco Tuesday promo gives you discounted player projections for even more value. Check out the promos tab to tell any of the super sweet Millie winners big games lineups. If you tail on a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of 1 million in promo funds. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, make sure you run your game and check it out today. Ooh, so it wasn't a pretty one for the Philadelphia 76ers, and it definitely was not a pretty one for Paul George. He said after the game that he's not really into the rhythm. He thinks he can get there, but when you're talking about a guy scoring 3 points in the second half when you are trying to close the game out and he's supposed to be your second go-to scorer, I mean, he looks like a role player out there on the floor last night. I know he's dealing with the finger right now, but what is your biggest takeaway from what Paul George did last night? Because I get that he's injured, but Paul George still hasn't shown me with the Philadelphia 76ers that he can mesh with them. And last night, it was just one of those games that maybe you shouldn't have played him in because he didn't make too much of a difference.
Yeah, here's the thing. Paul George played 32 minutes, 25 seconds. He had 9 points on 3 of 11 shooting. He was 3 for 6 for threes, but he was 0 for 5 on everything else. He did have 3 steals. He had 1 block, 3 fouls, one one rebound rather, and 2 assists. The thing about Paul George is, to me, it looked like it was real mental, right,
Mm-hmm.
than anything else. And what I mean by that is he really and initially didn't even try to drive the lane. Like he was
Yeah.
just, it seemed like just hoisting up threes and settling for it. And it's crazy because he missed his first three of them, right? And then he ended up making his final three, I believe. But but I just felt like he looked like a guy who was too focused, worrying about the hand. He even talked about that after the game.
Hmm.
And it just wasn't a good performance from him. Now, you look at it and you say, what are you talking about? He made 3 of 6 threes, 50%. That is a good percentage, but
Yeah.
he was missing bunnies. And he just looked frustrated. There was one point where he got his shot blocked at the rim. He thought he was fouled, and they go back and they score a layup on the other end, and he's yapping at the ref, and she teed him up. So, my thing is, I guess a takeaway is that, Paul needs some work. He needs to get it adjusted. But I also feel like that it was a little mental standpoint, being the first time that he's playing and with the messed up hand, and the reason why I'm saying mental because every break in action or whatever, this guy kept grabbing his hand and
Yeah.
touching it.
That's what
So
I'm saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
so he needs to get that together. He needs to.
Yeah, you saw even when he was making or trying to make free throws and anything in between from that standpoint for Paul George. He didn't have any attempts there tonight, but just trying to get that jumper from the free throw line and everything. He was shaking his hand, holding it, and it just did not look good on his end from that standpoint of things. And I do think now, this is the thing. Paul George said that he wasn't going to play on back to backs. Now, the 76ers don't have a back to back coming up, but he's been sitting out for a little bit. So has Joel Embiid. I do think that it's important for him to continue to play to get used to that brace on his finger because he's going to be really needing to use it all season. He has a torn tendon in there. So it's going to be really tough for him to play through it, but he's going to have to play through it. I mean, the 76ers, they go on that 4 game win streak. They lose 3 out of the last 4. You're looking at possibly having that 2-10 record once again that you had last time they won 4 straight. And Paul George needs to be a difference maker because even if he plays half decent there last night, the 76ers probably come out with that game. Now, there was a lot of other factors. There wasn't one starter in the plus territory. Every single one was in the minus territory as well. When you look at it, Paul George was minus 12. Yabusele was minus 16. Justin Howard's minus 17. Max minus 15. Oubre minus 9. But my biggest takeaway is that I just think Paul George needs to play a little bit more with that brace and get used to it. I do worry a little bit. There's not that much time left in the season, and I think Paul George has struggled to get consistent, to get steady with this team. But I do think the brace is bothering him, and he even said that he's going to get there. He's just not in his rhythm right now. Do you think there's enough time for him to get into this rhythm? Because I genuinely do, and I know fans are frustrated about how he played last night, but it's going to take some time with a brace on his finger for sure.
Yeah, I think. I mean, he'll find time. I mean, I think his role is going to be different. I mean,
Yeah.
when Joel comes back. But here's the thing. Let's be real. Like it wasn't just Paul George. The whole team looked horrible. The
Yeah.
whole
It was
team.
ugly.
Like everybody was miserable. Like the whole team was bad. Um, so I mean, we're looking at it where they shot 38.5%. Um, the whole game was awful. Like as I wrote in the article, like this was ugly for church league standards, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a bad game. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you and here's the one thing that I'm gonna say. What I really didn't understand. Um, I love Justin Edwards. He plays well, right? But it looked like Eric Gordon being out of the starting lineup might have impacted his game a little bit. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because when we look at it, when we look at Eric Gordon, he can stretch the floor. What
Mhm.
happened early on? They weren't making any shots. They were struggling to make shots. And he's what their bona fide sharpshooter. And I get it. You want Justin Edwards in there because of what he can do. But at the same time, having Justin Edwards in there, like it didn't, I guess it made your team longer, but Edwards was playing a 3 and Paul George was playing a 4. So if you were going to do that, why not have Kelly play the three, Paul George play the four, and then you have a sharpshooter playing the two, and and Eric Gordon, because early on, Justin Edwards, as good as he is, they kept trying to tell him like, "Yo, dude, you're in the wrong spot. Yo, dude, go do this. This is what you're going to do. You're going to do that." So I just felt like they were doomed from the beginning.
And that's going to be an adjustment period for Edwards, too, because once again, he's still very young. He's on the two-way contract, and he's really stepped up and played well. But now when you bring Grimes in, too, he's playing with Paul George a little bit, hasn't played with him in a little bit. Grimes comes in as well in just a few games, too. So Edwards is going to have to get used to kind of moving around, being in that right spot, figuring out what works best for him, because, yes, he's a young player, but he's got to get to that pretty quickly. It was an ugly game for the Philadelphia 76ers. Once again, they fall 108 to 101. We're going to touch on Tyrese Maxey because this might be the first time or one of the first times in a while that he admit that he was actually kind of tired in this game, that it was kind of tiring towards the end. So we'll touch on that when we come back on Locked On 76ers. And Super Bowl 59 is here. I hope you all are extremely excited for the game coming up on Sunday. One game, two teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. I always love betting on the Gatorade color because every year I say, you know what? I don't know what it's going to be. I probably will be wrong, but it is fun if you do get it right at the end. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, the official partner of Super Bowl 59. Make sure you go check it out today before the big game coming up this Sunday between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. So, Keith, if people didn't check it out, make sure you go check out his article in the Philadelphia Inquirer, which you wrote about Tyrese Maxey and the quote that you said that he was tired. He initially said that, honestly, they missed some looks, but he said, I'm going to be honest, I was tired towards the end. I won a back-to-back. Tyrese has been carrying the Philadelphia 76ers on his back, his seventh straight game with 30-plus points or more. He finishes with 31 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds. But you could even tell in the game, he hit some big shots there at the end. He was trying to get everything else involved. It just wasn't clicking. And Tyrese Maxey, for once, admitting maybe that he was a little bit tired, especially on that back-to-back, trying to now play with Paul George after really 2 nights ago playing with Joel Embiid and having to change his style of game a little bit too.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough when, I think that even though Paul George was incorporated in there, and you had Eric Gordon coming off the bench, all these guys have been tired. Like, I mean, they probably played in what, 3 back to backs recently. They had times where they had 3 games in 4 nights. It's going to wear you down, especially Tyrese, whose game is predicated on speed. It's not like he can walk the ball up, or he prefers to walk the ball up and do things. But yeah, I mean, you looked at it, and he tried to will it out in the fourth quarter and all that. But you, just by watching the game, everyone looked a little bit amiss. And it wasn't just him, everyone. I mean, Kelly Oubre was missing dunks, like he couldn't elevate to get there to the rim. So, and Tyrese, yeah, he played hard, valiant effort. But yeah, you looked at it and you saw that these guys were warped, and him included.
They were fatigued. They do have a day in between their next game when they take on the Pistons on the road. Now, the big thing that I looked at, too, team-wise for the Philadelphia 76ers, which this wasn't a super surprise to me because you have no Joel Embiid out there, no Andre Drummond, and Yabusele is a a bit undersized. They were out rebounded 54 to 39. I want to touch on Adem Bona real quick too, because this is somebody that I think is raw still. He's young, sometimes gets into some foul trouble a little bit. He finished with 11 points, 5 boards as well in just 18 minutes. Would you have liked to see Nick Nurse give him a little bit more run time, especially there, at the end? He was in towards the end just a little bit, but he's one of your guys that you want to put in to try to get some rebounds, and it seemed like maybe they weren't utilizing him enough to my liking at least. What were your thoughts on Adem Bona? Would you like to see the 76ers try to get him a little bit more implemented in the game plan, especially when Joel Embiid is not? I know he did play 18 minutes, so.
I think that's a tough call because, I get it. I see where he was 4 for 5, right? He had 5 rebounds. He had 3 of them were the offensive end, but it just looked like, okay, the big thing was in the pick and roll and other things, they wanted him to hold, like, to leave late or hold his pick for a while and then sprint to there. And afterwards, Reggie Jackson had to inform him or go over it with him the best way to do it. So my thing is, if you're really trying to win this game and you got Bam going ballistic on everyone, and and you got the guy Kelly Ware, grabbing all these rebounds, it's hard to put my man out there if you don't have 100% confidence in him that he can stop these guys. So I think that had a lot to do with it. Now, he did play well, but those other guys that we were talking about played better than he did.
Yeah, a little bit monsters, especially on the glass. Bam finishing with that double-double, 18 points, 13 boards. This game was crazy, too, because in the middle of the contest, we talked about trades earlier in the episode, and I want to, kind of circle off and finish with that. How about the Heat just trading Jimmy Butler in the middle of the game? Now he's with Golden State, and a bunch of teams involved on that trade, too. I mean, I knew that the Heat were going to dish him off. I didn't think it was going to be in the middle of the game when they were playing as well. I know, the trade deadline is coming to a close here today at 3 p.m., but definitely, I think some of the bench players on the Miami Heat had heard from the fans there as well to figure out what happened because they were in the middle of the game.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. And it's funny because one of the beat writers, I gave him a ride to his hotel after the game, and he was like, "Keith, have you ever had to write a story about the trade of the best player in the middle of a game?" And I said, "No, I."
Wow.
It sounds. I mean, he looked a little. He was warped. You could tell he was tired. Like he probably doesn't even know who won the game. I mean, I'm just joking, but yeah, it was. I've never seen that, and it's been a whole wacky trade deadline. The funny part is, people were saying nothing was going to happen. Oh, nothing's going to happen a week ago. And now it looks like it's just, I don't know. It's like a buffet of trades going on right now. It's crazy.
It is really crazy. And I think the second half of the season is going to look really, really different. It's so interesting. Jimmy Butler's always so interesting to me. Not getting too off topic here because he is the one player in the NBA, and I know it's a players' league that will complain, sit out, and then get what he wants all in the same time because it's happened on multiple occasions for Jimmy Butler. But now he's with Golden State. It's really interesting that happened in the middle of the game, and we really haven't seen that maybe ever, especially in the Sixers and the Heat.
Well, I'm gonna say this. It wasn't the middle of the game, but this was really bizarro. When Dion Waiters got traded from Cleveland to Oklahoma City, they literally announced his name. He was a starter. They announced his name in pregame warmups, and he's there. And then next thing you know, when the lights came on, he was gone.
Like that might be even crazier, honestly. Huh? I said that might be even crazier, honestly.
I mean, he was about ready to play the game, and they called him off. And then there was another time when Miami picked up Milwaukee picked up PJ Tucker. They were playing the Sixers, and they were
Mm-hmm.
in the layup line. In the layup line, and they called the two guys, the Milwaukee Bucks, off the floor. They literally ran off the floor to go
That's
to the
weird.
back, and that's how they got waived. So it wasn't quite in the games, but it was like more bizarro because they were there,
Right.
and whereas Jimmy, who knows where he was? He wasn't there. So it was different.
Yeah. Yeah, that is crazy. I think that might be crazier too. You're getting ready to play a game, then just kidding. See ya, you're no longer on the team. Jimmy Butler now, happening in the middle of the game, but kind of expected him to go, and of course he wasn't playing with the Miami Heat either way. But the Heat do come out on top without him, and they're kind of a new look team as well. They come out on top 108 to 101. It's going to be a fun day. We'll wait and see, and we'll be on top of it if the Philadelphia 76ers do anything. Once again, that trade deadline at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So we will wait and see. We don't think the 76ers are going to do much before that, but you never know. The NBA has been crazy in terms of trades so far here in 2025. Next up for the Philadelphia 76ers, they do have a break and then they play on Friday at 7:30 p.m. That's on the road in Detroit against the Pistons. That'll be a tough one for the Philadelphia 76ers because the Pistons aren't a team to look at and say, oh, it's a win. It's a tough game against the Pistons as well. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On 76ers. We will see you guys next time. We hope you all have a fantastic night.